and welcome to Capitol Hill. I'm Lyndal Curtis. Perhaps inspired by the upcoming London Olympics, the Leader of the Opposition and the Manager of Opposition Business made a dash for the exit doors today in order to put into practice their commitment not to accept the vote of Craig Thomson, who in this instance was siding with the coalition over government moves to gag coalition MPs. It began what became a tense parliamentary day in question time, where questions also continued to be asked on the approval of an enterprise migration agreement. Joining me to discuss the day are Labor Senator Doug Cameron and Liberal Senator Michaelia Cash. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Doug, if I could start with you, the caucus subcommittee approved yesterday to look at the resources boom in the broad, but migration, the enterprise migration in particular. Is the committee's role advisory only, or do you actually have any power?
No, it's advisory. The power resides in the Minister, but this is about ensuring that the caucus is across the issues, that the caucus understands where the government's going in terms of decision making, and that's a good thing.
So it's in order to give you a heads up when something might be coming up?
Well, it's a bit more than a heads up. It's to get advice from the caucus committee as well. We get lots of feedback from people on that very issue of enterprise migration agreements. We had meltdowns in my office in terms of people ringing up saying they can't get a start on any of these mine sites. And when I talk to other MPs, it's exactly the same.
Do you think enough has been put into place now to ensure that Australians will be first in the queue for any jobs that come up on mining projects?
Well, the Prime Minister has said that Australians are first in the queue, and that's the right thing. I've got no problem bringing migrants into this country. Why would I have a problem about migration? I'm lucky enough to be here as a migrant. But, when migrants come here, in those 457s and on these agreements, we also want to make sure they're safe, that they get decent wages and conditions and get access to advice.
The Prime Minister was reported after the agreement was announced to have told unions she was meeting with that she was furious about it. Do you understand that was her reaction?
No, I don't know anything about that. All I know is the first I knew about the enterprise migration agreements was when I saw Paul House bursting blood vessels all over my TV screen.
But why do you think it surprised the unions? Because it had been known for some time that this agreement was being negotiated, and unions were consulted as part of the process. I
really don't know. I mean, it surprised me, and it was in the budget papers, but it wasn't an issue of first nature in the political debate.
Do you blame Chris Bowen for not either consulting caucus or not enough, or not laying the groundwork for the announcement?
I don't blame Chris Bowen. I think Chris Bowen's one of the most honest and upfront ministers I deal with, and he's very good, so I don't blame him.
Michaelia, as I understand it, the Coalition supports enterprise migration agreements. Do you believe, though, that Australians should have first dibs at jobs on mining projects?
Thanks, Lyndal. The Coalition is very clear, and the answer is yes. Australians should always have first dibs on work if they are ready, willing and able. Can I just say, though, in relation to the situation over the last 48 hours with the enterprise migration agreements, what has happened with the Labor Party over the last 48 hours has shown Australians that you have a Prime Minister who has clearly been emasculated,
and not the politics?
And you have a Minister who has been hung out to dry. For Senator Cameron to sit here and to say to the people of Australia that he only recently heard about EMAs when over 12 months ago, after the result of this EMA has been talked about in estimates for some time now. This EMA last December was applied for. The government had its own task force which looked extensively at how labour could be got into the mining industry. They recommended that EMAs be brought forward. Over 12 months ago, this announcement was made. And to see what has happened over the last 48 hours in the Labor Party, quite frankly, is an absolute disgrace.
Go back to the issue. The issue is quite clear that many Australians feel that they are missing out on the mining boom. and that's a legitimate problem that government has to deal with. And it'd be good for the coalition to stop this mindless politicising of every issue and actually deal with the issues that Australians are worried about. They are worried about the booms not spreading to them. They are worried about getting jobs in the mining industry. They do want a fair share, and that's what the Labour Party is about.
Do you accept, though, it didn't look good? The Prime Minister seemed to be at least questioning her own minister, or questioning the actions of her own minister and what was done to approve the migration agreement.
But see, these things are a flash in a pan. They come and they go. The main issue is that the Labour Party is sitting down, looking at what we can do to spread the benefits of that boom across the economy. That's the key issue here, not the narrow political nonsense we've heard from Michaelia here, not talking about the key issues about getting Australians a start in the mining industry.
We might interrupt you on that point, because there is a political issue here that is integral to the Prime Minister's honesty with the Australian people. She has gone on record telling the union movement she was furious.
She's only been reported as that. That's not been confirmed, though.
She has confirmed today, however, that she was fully aware of this particular enterprise migration agreement, and she had not raised issues with Minister Ferguson. She is now on the record as saying that you either have
We might just move on now, because we're running out of time. If we could turn to the issue of the Fair Work inquiry before the Health Services Union, into the Health Services Union and Mr Thompson. Fair Work was back before a Senate committee last night, and there were questions about why the man who wrote the report, Terry Nassios, wasn't there, and why he was available to speak to the auditing firm doing an inquiry into Fair Work.
Mr Nassios is, apart from some periods, generally still in Victoria, and would make himself available.
Oh, and would that courtesy have extended to Senate estimates?
Well, I can't answer that, Senator. There was no request or invitation for him to attend.
Well, if Mr Nassios happens to be listening, he might be prepared to receive an invitation.
Michaelia, was it a tactical blunder for the Coalition not to invite Terry Nassios to appear before Senate estimates?
No, not at all. My understanding is that the Coalition found out that Mr Nassios would not be attending after the Senate had actually risen. The Senate itself needs to actually agree, or the committee needs to agree to the witness list, and on that basis we were unable to actually put our request for Mr Nassios to appear.
Why wasn't included in the original witness list?
Because we didn't actually see it until after the Senate had actually risen. So, in any event, regardless of whether Mr Nassios was there or was not there, the issue is, in June 2009, Mr Williams, the former Industrial Registrar, in his handover file to the new head of the Fair Work Commission, said there is enough evidence in relation to the HSU for you to actually formally now hand this over to police.
That wasn't what he said. He said he was going through the process, wasn't he, saying if there is malfeasance, then it could be handed over to police.
And they also said, though, that the proceedings need to be expedited, and 3 years on, we have only just seen the Fair Work report. Mr Lee should actually be coming to the Estimates Committee.
Have you run out of time now to invite Terry Nassios for this round of budget estimates? Will you seek to call him for the next round of estimates hearings?
My understanding is in relation to this round, yes. I don't sit on that committee, so I'm unable to answer whether or not we'd invite him to the next round.
Another Godwin Gretsch moment for Senator Abetz.
Well, not exactly.
It's always the smoking gun with Senator Abetz. Well, sometimes the smoking gun has to be one. You shouldn't be putting it at your own head. I think this just shows the incompetence of their economics, of their performance.
We might move on now to the events in the House of Representatives this morning as the government tried to gag opposition MPs. Craig Thompson, now sitting as an independent, sided with the Coalition, leading to these events.
Lock the doors. The question is that the member be no longer heard. The ayes will pass it. No! Lock the doors. Too late.
It was obviously a stunt orchestrated between Craig Thompson, Anthony Albanese and the government. This is a tainted vote. We aren't going to rely on a tainted vote, and I call on Julia Gillard to do exactly the same thing.
We know from this morning that the Leader of the Opposition can run, but come the 1st of July he won't be able to hide from these claims being revealed to be wholly untrue.
Doug, the coalition there was making good on its statement, wasn't it, that it wouldn't accept Craig Thomson's vote? A
bit of pantomime. I must say, I did see the leader of the opposition, Tony Abbott, out for a run straight after question time. He's obviously practising so that he can beat his manager of government business. I just think it looks silly for them and a bit dumb.
Michaelia, Mr Pyne issued a statement afterwards saying he left the chamber to negate the tainted vote of the member for the Dobell in the same way Senator Ian Campbell excused himself from the Senate as manager of government business when Senator Mal Colston voted with the Howard government once the coalition has refused to accept his vote in the late 1990s. Are you trying to mirror that?
Lyndal, what occurred today is very simple. Unlike the Labor Party, when the Liberal Party make a commitment to the Australian people, we stand by that. We have told the Australian people that we will not be relying on the vote of Craig Thomson. When it became apparent today that Mr Thomson was going to be voting with the coalition, senior coalition members sought to stand by the commitment they've made to the Australian people and leave the chamber.
But on the instance of Mal Colston, after the election in 1998, John Howard reversed that refusal to accept Senator Colston's vote, went back to accepting it, and Senator Colston's vote helped the Howard government get the Telstra sale through the Parliament, and at that stage Senator Colston was facing charges. Craig Thomson is not yet facing any charges, so why refuse to accept his vote now?
Can I just say it wasn't
the Labor
a core
Party
promise.
Have thrown Mr Thomson out of the caucus. So something's clearly wrong. If the Labor Party no longer want Mr Thomson to be a member of caucus, maybe that's a question that Senator Cameron might like to answer.
No, you answer the hard questions you can't answer.
What is the matter with Mr Thomson? Lyndal, it's very simple for us. Mr Abbott has made a very clear commitment to the Australian people, and unlike the Labor Party, we're going to stand by the commitment we made. That commitment was not to rely on the vote of Craig Thomson, and that is exactly what occurred today.
I will ask you that question, Senator Cameron, because I've asked a few Labor MPs. Why is it wrong for Craig Thomson to sit in the caucus?
I didn't make that decision. That's a decision you should ask the Prime Minister. But let me tell you about Craig Thomson. My position has been clear and unequivocal ever since this first became an issue, that Craig Thomson is entitled to the presumption of innocence. He is entitled to all the rights he has as an Australian citizen, and he's entitled to certain rights as a Member of Parliament.
Would you be happy if he was still in the caucus?
Look, Craig Thomson's not the biggest issue for me. I'm saying he's got certain rights. And what we're seeing at the moment is the coalition trying to trash his rights as a citizen and trash his rights as an MP. Doesn't matter what allegations are there. He has not been charged with anything, and that's the problem for the coalition.
Michaelia, if I could ask you a quick question. There was a story in the West Australian this morning saying coalition MPs are worried about Mr Abbott's negativity. Do you think he's being too negative? It's time to be more positive?
Absolutely not. Stopping the boat is not a negative thing. That is holding the government to account. Criticising the government in relation to racking up what is now the biggest debt that Australia has ever seen, that is not being negative. That is holding the government to account. And in our budget in reply speech, we put forward a very positive future for the people of Australia. So is Mr Abbott being negative? Absolutely not. And we are offering hope, reward and opportunity to all Australians.
The slogans. He is a negative brawler, and the public are starting to see that.
We might have to leave it there. Michaelia Cash and Doug Cameron, thank you very much for your time. And thank you for joining Capitol Hill. Please be with us at the same time tomorrow.